Hi guys, we're on good old Antarctica now, so we'll be going over the history and two legends slash theories kind of thing. Actually, although now a frozen wilderness, Antarctica was once further north and had a tropical or semi-tropical climate as forests grew there and there was life, more life, substantiated life kind of thing, as it watched documentaries a few years ago now that showed that dinosaurs were there. The ancient Greeks realised that there might be a great continent in the southern hemisphere, as Aristotle had argued that since the world is round, there must be a landmass in the southern hemisphere to balance the land in the northern hemisphere. However, the Greeks were native peoples had no way of proving it at the time, as it was not until the 18th century that the Europeans had their navigation skills to explore the Antarctic region. And in 1772-75, Captain Cook was sent on an expedition to the southern hemisphere on the 17th of January 1773. As Cook became the first person to cross the Antarctic Circle. He crossed it 3 times but failed to find land. As the first man to actually see the continent of Antarctica was an Estonian named Fabian. Sorry for botches. Fabian von Bellingshausen on the 27th of January 1820. Separately, Edward Bransfield was the second person to see Antarctica on the 30th of January 1820, and then on the 26th of December 1821, George Powell and Nathaniel Palmer discovered the South Orkney Islands. Furthermore, in 1823, a Scotsman named James Weddell explored the Weddell Sea, was now known as the Weddell Sea. No points for guessing who named that one, how that one was named. A further exploration of Antarctica was carried out by an American named Charles Wilkes in 1838-39, as a Frenchman Dumont d'Urville in 1837-40, another Scotsman named James Ross in 1838-41, as the latter discovered the Rossy and the Ross Ice Shelf. What is it with people naming things after themselves? There's the Weddell Sea, there's Tristan da Cunha, and there's the Rossy and Ross Ice Shelf. As decades passed and the world showed little interest in Antarctica, then in 1892-94, a Norwegian called Carl Larsen sailed to the southern continent and discovered fossil wood, the first indication of that the climate in Antarctica had been warmer at some point in the past. In 1895, a Norwegian named Henrik Bull discovered inchins growing in the Possession Islands, and the first time plants had been found growing south of the Antarctic Circle. Then in 1897-98, a Belgian named Adrien de Gerlache led another expedition to the Antarctica. And in 1899 and 1900, another Norwegian named Carsten Borchgrevink led a group of men who spent a winter on the continent, as it proved that it was possible to kind of survive the extremely harsh Antarctic winter, as they were also the first people to take at least one dog to Antarctica. In 1901-1903, a German expedition to Antarctica was led by Erich von Drygalski. Also in 1901-1903, a Swedish expedition was led by Nils Nordenskjöld. Meanwhile, in 1901-1902, a British expedition to Antarctica was led by Falcon Scott. Another expedition. Lost where I was. In 1901 to 1902, a British expedition to Antarctica was led by Robert Falcon Scott, as another expedition was led by another Scotsman named William Bruce in 1902 to 1904. And then finally in 1908, Ernst Shackleton led another British expedition to Antarctica. As the first man to reach the South Pole was a Norwegian named Roald Amundsen, who lived from 1872 to 1928. Amundsen set sail on a ship called the Fram on June 1910, as the expedition reached Antarctica in January 1911. As they were equipped with skis and dogs for pulling sleds. As they spent the winter in the base, and on October the 20th, 1911, Roald Amundsen and four men, Olav Bjørnland, Helmer Hansen, Sverre Hassel and Oscar Wisting, set sail for the South Pole, and they reached it on the 14th of December 1911. As they returned to their base on the 25th of January 1912. However, Amundsen's achievement was overshadowed by the tragic deaths of Robert Scott and his expedition, as Scott's and his expedition arrived in January 1911 and set sail for the South Pole in October. They reached it on the 17th of January 1912, but only to find that they had been beaten by Amundsen, as he failed to make it back to their base. As the last entry in Scott's diary was 29th of March 1912. As the first plane to fly over Antarctica was an Australian called George Wilkins on November 1928, but in November 1929, an American called Richard Bayard actually flew over the South Pole. In 1935, Caroline Michelson became the first woman to land on Antarctica, as the British were first to establish a permanent base in Antarctica in 1944 for military reasons, as the Australians established a scientific base in 1954. As today, many nations maintain many bases in Antarctica. And in 1958, the famous Sir Edmund Hillary reached the South Pole, and he was the first man to reach it since Captain Scott in 1912. And in 1958, a team led by Vivian Brooks became the first men to cross Antarctica overland. And in 1959, the Antarctic Treaty was drawn up and came into force 2 years later in 1961 as it seeks to conserve Antarctica and is regularly revised, kind of thing. And starting off with the first of our theories, so that European scientists have unearthed major pieces of geologic history. Data from a long-retired satellite revealed ancient land masses hidden beneath Antarctica. As the Southern Space Agency's gravity field and ocean circulation explorer satellite was retired a number of years ago now, but while it was still running, it produced maps on how the Earth's gravitational varies around the globe. Combining the data with seismological reports, geologists at Germany's Cairo University were able to create 3D maps of a previously unexamined cross between Antarctica's ice beneath the ice, and according to new research, which was published in the journal Scientific Reports on a while back now, the fractured layers of the crust surrounding Antarctica resemble the crust on various coastlines around the world. That suggests that those coastlines were paired up when the continents were joined together in Pangaea, as eastern Antarctica shows similarities to the geology of Australia and India, but is notably different from the crust beneath the western portion of Antarctica, which would have been connected to different coastlines. As the discrepancy gives scientists a better idea of how the continental pieces once used to fit together, kind of thing. But there are some discrepancies, and some believe that Atlantis was there. While there are remnants of seismic activity as the endless destruction of and the recycling of Earth's crusts as tectonic plates shift and collide among each other, there's nothing to kind of suggest definitively that Atlantis was there. As there was, but the scans kind of help the geologists to better understand our world. Not like a hidden utopia that's as yet to be found. Anyway, so I'm pretty sure they were supposed to be in somewhere around the Straits of Gibraltar in Spain, kind of thing. But yeah, so so these days the fabled Atlantis isn't the first to kind of research that. As Adolf Hitler used the concept of Lebensraum, or living space, to justify the invasions of Poland, Russia, and other Eastern European nations, so he can get the space for his people. But one small chapter in history's drive for new land is often overlooked. And after the Third Reich's hunger for margarine led to a secret expedition to Antarctica 80 years ago, as the tales begin in the summer of 1936, as Hitler compiled a 4-year plan to boost the German military and domestic economy to be ready for war by 1940, as he put Hermann Goering in charge as he developed a German fat plan to enable Germany to improve the efficiency of its domestic consumption of butter, milk, cream, lard, cheese, bacon, margarine, salad oils, detergents, candles, linoleum, and paints. Surprisingly, as the idea was the first substitute for the oil and fat-based products in case some sauces were cut off. At the time, whale oil was one of the main ingredients for margarine, as they may have eaten quite a bit of it. And to prepare for it, they needed whale oil, says Cornelia Ludek, professor of the history of science at Hamburg University, who co-authored a book in 2012, The Third Reich in Antarctica, the German Antarctic Expedition of 1938-39, with Colin Summer-Hayes, as they had to buy whale oil from Norway before, and they didn't want to spend the currency of Norway. They wanted to produce whale oil by themselves. As they began building whaling ships to supply the Southern Ocean. And at the time, commercial whaling had been decimated in the North Atlantic and North Pacific, as German whaling ships were operating far from home. As the idea of establishing an Antarctic base seemed like a good idea at the time. In August 1936, the German Foreign Office found some unclaimed territory in Antarctica between the Norwegian and British zones, and an expedition to explore and claim the region between 20 degrees east and 10 degrees west, part of an area known as Queen Maud Land, took shape. As the expedition was organised in the summer of 1938, led by Captain Alfred Richter, was a decorated World War I naval commander who married a prominent Jewish artist, as he selected his crew for a secretive mission based on parallel experience rather than membership to the Nazi Party. After 3 months, the repairs to turn the Schwabenland into an icebreaker, the captain sailed from Hamburg in December 1938 with a crew of about 82 scientists, officers and enlisted men, as well as 2 Dornier flying boats perched on catapults. That's scary to think about, and there was 1 Nazi official on board, which was acquired by the regime, as it stipulated that everyone had to listen to radio broadcasts of Hitler around Christmas time. I have a feeling they're playing a game downstairs, as everyone had to sit and listen to him supposedly, and there was a speech where it was but on one of them they had to, there's so much atmospheric disturbance they had to switch off the radio. As the ship reached the Antarctic coastline a month later and began aerial reconnaissance using their flying boats, the mountainous region had never been explored, and the German scientists named it New Schwabenland after the ship. And the flights had 2 purposes: to photograph the area for scientific research and cartography, but also to claim it for Nazi Germany. But as these things go, nothing ever really turns out as planned. As one of the flights, the crew was running low on fuel and was first to throw the extra gear out to lighten the aircraft, as that included boxes of tiny metal swastikas, which were supposed to kind of cement the Nazi territorial claim. But the boxes holding the swastikas has never been recovered as something like that. But the photographic surveys covered huge parts of Antarctica, increased the size of an area known by 16%, according to Ludecke's historical research, as the surveys covered more territory than the German homeland at the time. As the Schwabenland expedition did not last long, as they completed their work and began the long trip home on the 5th of February 1939. On the way home, the ship conducted scans of the seafloor of the Atlantic Ocean, as the ship's scientists detected seismic activity that they believed to be a line of volcanoes running along north-south along the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. But in later decades and all, the line of volcanoes was found to be the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, a region where 2 of the Earth's tectonic plates are pulling apart and forming a new section of the seafloor. As much of the expedition's science was lost during the war or kept under wraps until it was later published in 1958, and all the tale of a Nazi secret base or lost Antarctic colonies still populate the internet and there's no evidence that Hitler had any further interest in the continent after the expedition returned. As a co-author, Summer Hayes wrote in a 2007 journal article that spelling out how the people have been confusing military aircraft activity after World War II, in the region that the early Nazi commissioned expedition, Germany would not set up its first permanent station in Antarctica until 1981. So yeah, it's all confusing and all that, but yeah, from the sounds of it, Germany laid claim to that little bit. So yeah, bye for now, and I'll see you all soon.